Good afternoon, everybody. It is February 1st, and it is the new trading month of 2022. It is a short month. Keep in mind it's February, so we should see some increased volatility. That being said, I'm going to jump right in and do an analysis on oil and why I believe shorting oil at these current levels can be a very highly profitable and probable trade. So jumping right into the USO, you can see on the chart here, currently on the USO, which mimics the price of crude oil, I'm going to draw in some trend lines just so we can see some support and resistance lines on the chart. That being said, you can see these two orange lines. One is support, one is resistance. Obviously the top one is resistance. So you can see it connects the pivot high to the pivot high to the pivot high. And look where we are. We're almost approaching that same pivot high area. And every single time you approach the upper range of this trend line, which is resistance, you've had a sell-off, 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 sell-off. Now, 2 out of the 3 times you actually broke and pierced the 50-day moving average, which is this purple line. So you broke it over here, and you broke it over here, and here you bounced off of it. But what's interesting is that the 50-day moving average this go around is at the lower end of the channel. That just shows you how fast and rapidly oil rose in price. And it's a difference because here the 50-day was more or less in the middle of the channel. It had a little more of a controlled move to the upside. This has had just a straight vertical run to the upside without much consolidation, which is a very dangerous situation because once oil tags this trend line, it's going to roll over, and we can already see in the price action sellers are starting to step in. You've had selling action here, you've had selling action here. So the price action looks like it's running out of steam. That being said, it does have a little bit more upside that it could go, but I believe shorting at these current levels via the SCO will be a lucrative trade. And I do believe you correct down to the 50-day, but ultimately you break both the 50 and this trend line and you head right back down to the 200-day moving average. So that will be basically a excellent drop from the current levels. Even just from the current levels, I'm expecting at least an 11% drop. If you play the SEO, it's ×2, so that would be a 20% drop. Let's just look at the price action of crude just so you get an actual good indication of what's going on. I'm just going to remove all my trend lines. These are my trading trend lines. Okay, just so the chart is clear. So crude is an interesting setup, because again, let's draw the same trend lines. This is the actual price of oil, so it can't get any more accurate than this. So just drawing the upper end of this trend line, which connects pivot high, pivot high, pivot high, pivot high. Now let's measure these sell-offs that happened in crude. So if you take the pivot high, 26%. Take the pivot high down to the low, 20%. Take this down to the low, 15%. So you had a 15, 20, 25% decline. And what's interesting about these declines is if you had a 15, a 20, and a 25%, the declines are increasing by an extra 5% each time, which if you're following the path of the last 3 declines, we're up for roughly a 30% decline. Now, a lot of people will say that's crazy, which, you know, one would think it is, but it would actually more or less break this pivot low, and I expect a huge bounce at that level, but it would break this pivot low and signify a downtrend in oil. Now things can change, and that's a big guesstimate. I would not hold the short for the full 30%. I'd be looking to trim on the 50 and then ultimately the 200 because I'm not greedy. But shorting at these levels is definitely a favorable trade, and Trading Capital, full disclosure, has started shorting oil. As you can see, a key significant level is this topping tail here. This topping tail was actually holding the price in for quite a while, up until you basically confirmed and closed above it today. So today is actually confirmation day. What we're watching carefully is, does this price action close above this tail? If it closes above, it's bullish and it would likely send the price up to the top of the channel. If it doesn't close above that, then it's likely going to start rolling over and heading over. And just so we look at another indicator, the RSI is again at extremely overbought levels. Okay. And if you actually take a trend line across the RSI, you're running into some major resistance on the RSI. Not much room left to go. And it's actually showing, despite this being higher, it's actually showing that there's a little less relative strength because of the fact that you're higher on the price but you're low on the RSI. So just keep that in mind. We are overbought. Oil should see a decline fairly soon. I'm confident in the swing trade, as it is it's an easier commodity to trade the cycles that it enters in and out. And following this path where it has a bigger decline and a bigger decline, followed by a bigger rally and a bigger rally, I am definitely on the short side of oil. So again, the key level to watch today: does oil close above or below that pivot high? That is the key level. Okay, so I'm just going to try to get the accuracy of that trend line. So we're looking at roughly 87.91 on the US oil crude chart. So keep that level in mind, people. But again, I'm definitely shorting USO via the SCO, and I've already started accumulating shorts despite this potentially going higher, because I potentially see a 10 to 12% decline very, very easily in the oil charts. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this analysis and stay tuned for more.